Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. I'm Robbie.
I'm Jason.
And welcome to the table. We are so excited to have you guys here today for another fantastic episode. Jason, we just got to spend so much time together, but it's funny because it feels so like I feel so out of practice on recording a Bards episode.
Yep. I agree. I was thinking about that today because even when I texted you yesterday or the day before, I was like, we're doing it this week, right? Because we did back to back but we hung out so much. So it just felt like we were there. And then I'm like, I think we got to record Bards this week. And we'd kind of laid out the plan, but I was like, we're doing this, right? We're still doing this. It's the right time. But I agree. We're out of the rhythm of it, which is okay. It was a good reason to be out of the rhythm because of getting to interview James and then getting to come up for Worlds. So we're back at it. Here we go. Tuesday night for us, 7:30 Eastern. Here we go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, man, we got to play so many games while I was up there. So many new games to me. We actually new game to you, which is our feature episode, our feature game of the episode. But Jason, what two games did you pick for what we've been playing lately?
Sure thing. I went back and forth. I figured the two you were going to talk to were going to be the ones you did, so it made it easier for me not to. And I will highlight, we actually held a game night here, and I didn't keep any of those games in BG stats as random things, but we held a game night for some of our folks from Foundations, Patreon, and I played 4 or 5 different games that night. None here though. The two I'm going to highlight, one we've talked about as a feature episode game, and one I think I've talked about it playing lately. So I'm going to talk about Stella, a Dixit universe game. So for folks who know Dixit in general is you have these cards that have these wild, crazy pictures on it, beautiful art. And then if you're the main player, you say, hey, sky. And then everybody pulls a card out and tries to show a card that shows that makes you think of sky. You vote on it, you go from there. Stella. So for those who play Dixit, Stella will make sense. If you've never played Dixit, it won't necessarily make sense. But in Stella, you have a grid of 3x4, so 12 cards. And then a single word comes out. So 4-round game, single word comes out that may say sky. And then on your little board, you're marking privately every card that you think inspires you to sky, references sky, whatever. And your goal is to actually mark the same cards that other people are doing. There's some more intricate scoring with that, but that's the gist of it. And it's just super fun. Like it is, if you've come from the Dixit universe, Stella's amazing. I love it. I will always play it over Dixit because of the wide variety in those things. And then I think that was the first time we'd play with you, Robbie, when we played it, right? So that was your first time
I played it.
And you know, the Dixit cards, the cards that go in Mysterium, the cards that go in Stella just have amazing art and they're super fun. And the game plays relatively quickly and it can be really fun because it's not quite entry level because the way you go around the table and identify a card that you guessed and there's some point scoring with that. So the deeper strategy of that isn't entry level, but the basics of looking at a card and thinking, I'm thinking about sky. And you may look at a card and it'd be blue, but have nothing to do with a sky and think, well, it's sky blue. And I could be looking at a card that's clearly a star and I'm thinking about, well, stars are in the sky. And there could be a card that maybe has a plane on it, but there's nowhere else sky. And it's like maybe a toy plane sitting on the bedroom floor of a kid, but planes fly in the sky. So of course it's sky, right? That's what's fun about Stella. I'm not a big party game, and it's a little bit more than a party game, but Stella definitely is in that party game world. And I love it. Like it would probably be my next level go-to party game. I would always pull out beyond the just one or the green team wins. So that's, like we said, it's your first time playing it, Robbie. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. So we haven't done Dixit as an episode yet, have we?
Correct. No, we haven't.
Yeah. And I know we've talked about having Dixit as an episode. So, but I see a world that it's like, if we did Dixit and let's say this is episode 27, if we did it in 28 or 29, I could see a world that we come back to Stella in the 40s because it's you've had, for those of you that went and got Dixit, you can evolve to Stella.
Yep.
And anyone and then we could also later on down the road do Mysterium. Like inside of this universe, the cards are just so beautiful that it draws you in. And what I liked about Stella is that I understand the hardest part about Dixit is coming up with clues, and that stresses so many people out. And Jason literally had to explain that to me because I was like, that's my favorite part of Dixit. Right. I love coming up with the banter, the clue, the things like that. So I would never have thought, that's stressful for people. So I think it solves that issue really well. My initial reaction when I played, I was like, I think I just like Dixit way more than this. But the more that I've thought about it in post is that like I love exactly what Jason said, that risk that you get to take, and it's almost push your lucky when you're picking what cards you want to go for, because you're like, there is a feather on the ground that connects to a bird. Birds are in the sky. I'm going to send it. I just need one other person to have some reason that they have picked that card. So there's a bit of a thrill in that. Really, really fun. Stella's, great choice. Yep. I think it will definitely be an episode down the road.
Yep. It's one of those that it's not necessarily one I forget about, but when we're introducing party games, I usually go really light, which are great games, right? Green teams win just ones. The two ones we always do. Super Mario card game for you, which I still have that here as well. So Robbie actually let me borrow 2 games until November, or we'll see each other next month. So I'll bring them to you then. The second one's actually one we've had in a featured game, and I just want to talk about it because we finally closed it out. We finally finished The Crew. What's up? So if you remember, The Crew has 50 missions, basically 50 objectives you have to do. Okay. We have to, 3 different people have to get 3 different tricks in a specific order, whatever that may be, a wide variety of objectives. And so we knew when Robbie came up for Worlds, he's going to be here for 10 days. We had like 10 more missions to do. It was like, okay, we're going to do it. We're just going to push through. That's going to be the priority. We did play a bunch of games, but that's going to be the priority. And then we flew through 9 of those 10 pretty quick. Like, there's only a couple we stumbled on, like, wow, this is pretty creepy how good we're doing. And we came to the last one, and I loved the last one immediately. And Elizabeth and Robbie didn't believe we could actually do it. Full disclosure, like, I just don't see how we do it. I was like, well, this is how we do it. I don't see how we do it. And I kept saying that. And we didn't finish it that night. And then we were really busy with Worlds. And a couple days later, Robbie goes, you know what? I think we've been playing this on hard mode. And the reason, and we have, so for those who remember trick taking, in traditional trick taking, you have to follow suit. So if I play a spade, if we're playing spade, or if I play clubs, you got to follow clubs. If I play a red, you got to follow red, whatever in the traditional trick taking. And there's usually a trump card that can beat everything else. But you usually, if you can't follow suit, then you could play a trump, but you never could lead with a trump card. And so in The Crew, the rockets are always trump. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4 rocket. They're always trump. And when Robbie went to Board Game Geek and looked around, like, I think we're playing this on extremely hard mode. And sure enough, in the rules, it basically says you can lead with trump. So we'd played the entire thing on expert mode up until that level. And that night, the last night we did it, we were literally like 1 trick away on expert mode multiple times. Me, Elizabeth, and Robbie each messed up at least once. And we eventually beat it on normal mode, i.e. leading with the trick. We had to do one hand, we had to lead with the trick. But we were so close. And that's what I told Elizabeth, like, when you come back in November, one night, we're going to dedicate back to mission 50 and like, this is the night. We're going to give ourselves an hour or whatever, because we can do it on expert mode. But yeah, I even, it's so funny. We were so excited that night to do that. We're talking before we recorded, I saw someone I know from a local game group, and we were talking about The Crew, and he even said that, he doesn't play that way, because I explained how we're on hard mode. He goes, oh yeah, you can lead with trumps. And like, so even he knew, because he's a big trick taker, that you could do that. I was like, that wasn't us. He goes, I quit halfway through, and I never would have gone that far if I was playing by the hard rule. I'm like, so we're awesome. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
It goes, Robbie, Elizabeth, and I'm way down here, but I'm okay complimentary to the team because I messed up a lot. But we completed The Crew, and it was awesome.
Dude, Jason nailed it. Like we realized we were on a hard mode, because I literally was like, we had tried it the night before, and I was like, it's impossible. I actually don't think that we're going to be able to do this. There has to be someone on the internet who has figured out, like, here's some advice. Because even if I had advice in the right direction, we knew what to do. We would still have to take the tricks correctly. And so I looked it up, realized that, and our first attempt at it, I messed up, and we were literally a trick away first time that night, trying to do it on hard, because we had said, let's try it for a little. Dude, so good. So I think we can nail it when we get back. So it feels great to be done with The Crew, and I'm looking forward to diving into the deep sea adventure.
Yeah, for sure.
So keep it going. So I play the 2 games that I'll talk about. One of them, Grand Austria Hotel, which, Jason, near the top of, like, it's in your top 5.
Yep. It easily rotates around 1, 2, and 3 between Dinosaur Island, Dune Imperium. they could all interchange with each other. But it's an all-timer. And for instance, the first time I played it, it's been up there.
Yeah. So Grand Austria Hotel, as a theme lover, so good. For complexity level, so good. And it's fun because to me, like thinking about the game afterwards, it's one of those games that I feel like to succeed, to excel at the game, you have to be able to understand the deep strategy and like sort of playing your turns out and things like that, because it's a really cool mechanic in that it's a snake draft for the actions. So each round, it's like, okay, if you're first, you get your ideal pick of the litter. Here we go. And the actions become, in theory, less powerful as you go through the round, because you're just chucking a ton of die based on what they do that empowers certain actions. So I got super lucky in Grand Austria Hotel because I was like, oh, I picked something early and the die went my way for a majority of the game. The one action that I needed to hit multiple times kept staying powerful. And it really didn't benefit Jason and Elizabeth to do that. But you were like, you're bringing guests into your hotel, you're feeding them. So you have to gather resources, you have to gather guests. And if your tables are full because you haven't fed those guests, you can't get more guests. And then when you have the guests and you fed them, you put them in rooms in your hotel, and that gets you points later on. So it was if you really lean into it, there's so much complexity to it. But I also think that if you found someone who's like on the fringe of like competitive, like I think of a world, if it was like Dakota and Marissa came over, I think there's a world that Marissa could enjoy just doing stuff in Grand Austria Hotel. She may not win, but there's enough to do. And that's really cool for a complex game, that you don't just feel, oh my gosh, I'm like so far behind. Like if you play Dinosaur Island and you're not a complex gamer, you're just not going to accomplish anything. Like you're going to get to the end, you're like, I didn't gather enough DNA to actually build dinosaurs. Like you're struggling. Grand Austria Hotel was super cool because it definitely feels like a quick to play, quick to get started, very difficult to master.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your experience having played it way more?
Yeah, it's when I think about what's funny, you did that description. I agree, because it's about how if a not super heavy gamer just plays the game instead of trying to play the game well, which is easier said than done, right? Because there's only 6 actions. And I will clarify this. Robbie says chucking die. It's not a dice chucking game. At the beginning of the turn, you roll die, and then you're actually selecting the die that have been rolled. So you're not chucking die every time, because I'm very much not, for those who listen to Bards, I don't play like games where you're chucking die on every single turn, right? Even though I love Space Base, which we also played. But the die don't go your way. They don't go your way. Like my favorite thing, Robbie gets tired of me saying that. But you have one of 6 actions. You're taking a 1 to do. The numbered die that get rolled, and you're rolling like 12 or 14. You're putting all the 1s together, all the 2s together, all the 3s together, and you're choosing that for an action. And that's your turn. Okay, I'm going to do this. That may get you to finish feeding a guest to put them in a room, or that may let you play a card. That may let you do something, but there's not a ton of combos in general unless you complete a few guests. So the turns aren't super long, because there's not like, okay, I can do this. Let's let me do this. Now I can do this. Let's me do this. It's okay. I'm going to get this. Give me some coffee. I'm going to spend some money. Put this down here. Okay, 2 guests. Just close this. Now I'm done. And there's the next person. And it's only 6 actions, but there's so many little things. The Emperor track can go, you got to get to a certain point, but you're going to go back 3 times a game, but that doesn't actually make sense. It's hard to even describe why I love it. So I love it because there's so many different things, but in the end, I love as much as I'm not a big dice roller, I love the action selection with the dice. I love being forced to use what you're given each round. Everybody has access to the same things. And you're having to, okay, because we had crazy ones where a bunch of, some things didn't get rolled at all, and some things we had a ton of rolls, right? It was the wildest. Liz and I have played this game a ton. We're like, never seen those rolls like before in my life. That many 1s and 2s or whatever. Like, it was wild. But I love that because, okay, now I got to pivot a little bit. And Elizabeth played terribly. She'll tell you, like, she got smoked by me and Robbie. I think I ended up beating you by a couple or something. It was tight. Because there was
that last turn you went for the
because I
have to. Yeah,
I could do this and guarantee and maybe lose by a point or 2, or I can roll the die because there's an action where you can pass and roll the leftover die and I literally rolled it perfect. I was like, oh wow, that was a perfect roll. The die went my way, and I ended up winning by exactly that many things. So I love Grand Austria Hotel, but it's a if you play to play, but if a new player just plays to play, it won't take too long. But if you're playing to win, it's a long game because you're thinking, even for me who plays really fast, I have to, okay, I'm going to do this and got to be ready. Okay, just the way some of the die manipulation happens. So I'm glad I finally got to show it to you for sure, because now it's hit Dune Imperium, and that's kind of the top three-ish of my all-timers.
Yeah, it's a blast. Grand Austria is definitely a game that I could see in a world that it's like, oh, we're back up there. Like, it would be fun because right now every trip that I have up there, it's like, we're trying to cover so many games and work through so many games. Eventually on trips, we'll just be able to dive back in and play games again. And I look forward I would love to play that game with the full Collins crew, and see like a Ryder dive into it. So it could be a blast. The second game is actually my first Druid City games experience, because it got talked about last episode in Sorcerer City. And I love tile laying games. All about a good tile laying game. Today's game is a tile laying game. But Sorcerer City, you are the best way that I described Sorcerer City to folks later was Carcassonne, which is one of the big three introduction to introduction to modern hobby gaming, and Dominion, which we've done an episode on Dominion, which is deck building. If those two had a baby, it would be Sorcerer City, because everyone has the same starting tiles. And unlike Carcassonne, where everyone's building a collective Dominion type deal, a collective like land, and you're laying one tile at a time, in Sorcerer City, everybody's building their own city. You're building your own district, I believe is technically what it's called. And so you have a 2 or 3 minute timer. Everybody plays their tiles and builds that, and you add up your points. There's 4 different point tracks that you get, and you're trying to make color combinations in your city. And then you go to a market between rounds and you buy more tiles that come in. There are monsters that do destructive things or halt your progress as you're building this. So there's like, it checks so many boxes. Replayability, super high, because there is such variance in the tiles that can come out. And not only maybe you're like, oh, I love buying this specific tile. Even if you get it, it's going to come out of your starting, like you pile up all of the tiles for your district, you shuffle them every single round. So it may come out super early and it's not as effective, or it may come out super late and it's not as effective. So the variance is there. The monsters, there are so many monsters that have like crazy effects. One of them that we used this time was the Night Stalker, who, when you play this one, you have to play your next 2 tiles face down.
Yep.
So like you're just guessing, okay, here we go. So like in Argon, the dragon destroys permanently whatever tile it touches. So I played 2 face down, and I was like, I just don't want to risk it. That this is a bad tile. So I used my dragon to destroy one of them. And it was my like mega scoring shield red for influence. And I was like, oh no. And then from that round on, I lost the influence track every single time. And it was like, but it's a thrill. So it was super, super fun. As my first Druid City experience, I really, in November, we've got to play Wonderland's War, because I'm really appreciating the love of that. And I introduced it to our friends Ryan and Abby, and Ryan borrowed it, went and introduced it to friends the next day. And Ryan already labeled it as his favorite game that he's ever played. And then their friend Christian labeled it as his second favorite game that they've ever played. So if you like tile laying, this is a really fun, crunchy one that also has some fun. Like the real time element is also amazing, but not real time in like the scary real time.
Right. It was one, I think because we shortly talked about it last week or on our previous episode. It was probably the game I own that I like the most, that gets the least amount of love. And James kind of addressed that. Really, and it's the real time aspect of it that scared people away, because they thought there's somebody often real time games are stressed when you're going fast. Oh my gosh, I got to go here, I got to go do this. But it's really like, it's just a timer. Okay, and you can make it a longer timer. You can make a game really hard by setting like a 2-minute or set a 3 or 4 minute. It doesn't matter. Like you set the timer for how you want to play the game. And James said it, but that's what hurt it. But if you don't have a timer, people will literally, and James said it, I think as well, think forever. Like, okay, I could do this here. No. You got to have a timer for it. And it's the game that gets the least amount of love for such a good game. It's still rated like 1800 on BGG, which sounds low, but I mean, there's over 100,000 games on BGG, so it's not a terrible rating from a numerical perspective, but it gets the least amount of love of so many good games that are out there. And it was definitely divine intervention because what was it? You were on your way home, stopped at a place called McKay's that anybody who does gone Chattanooga, Knoxville knows McKay's used books, but they also have, sometimes you can find a gym in the used game section. And Robbie sent me a photo of like, oh, wow, look what I found. I was like, okay, it's divine intervention. You got to get it now. If you literally found that game out at McKay's on the way home for a good deal as well. So
yeah, greater than half off. And also, I don't know if I sent a picture, but it came with this like pin, like an enamel pin of the like Gorgon.
Oh, really?
So
I wonder if that was like a Kickstarter version that didn't have the coins. Because did it have the metal coins or was it the?
No, it was the cardboard coins. Which I also, as a fun aside, I told someone about Quacks, and I was like, I told them because I had the cardboard coins, and I was like, okay, this doesn't feel as essential as Quacks, but in terms of upgrading the pieces,
yeah.
But it does make me pretty sad using these cardboard
right.
coins.
Well, because they're not even, I call them coins, but it's actually the points, but they're numbered like coins, which is a funny thing. And they're really cool. And James said that's what took the longest. He said it before that because they're really cool shapes and they all fit together. And I actually bought the coins when I got the original Sorcerer City. It was a gift from Christopher Mandy, because they're friends with James, so they'll often back his Kickstarter and give us a copy of it. It didn't have the coins, so I actually hunted the coins down separately and got the coins on a separate thing. I even have two sets of them, Robbie. I'll give you a set. I'm not kidding.
No. I'll hunt them down myself. Don't you worry, because you use them for other stuff, which is that's how great the game is.
Because I forgot I had ordered a set, and then they were like on sale or something, so I ordered a second set. So I'm glad you got to play Sorcerer City.
Yeah. Well, y'all, we're 22 minutes in, so I want to give a quick update on reviews, and then we'll dive into our main topic. But we're at 32 reviews, Jason. We've crossed well over the halfway point. We're closer to 50, which is our giveaway, than we were before. We're closer to the giveaway than we are to even halfway. So it's great. But Triforce Raptor left a review on August 26th. And so kind. The duo of Robbie and Jason is a perfect combination. Robbie's always enthusiastic and is great for hyping games up, and Jason is a master at explaining games while also being honest if he doesn't love a great game. The outline of the show is also very engaging. They both update each other on what they've been playing, and then they deep dive into the game they're highlighting. I personally immediately went and purchased Flamecraft after they talked about it, and it is now a staple in our gaming group. Can't recommend this podcast enough. So thank you, Triforce Raptor. We really appreciate it. And as a reminder for everyone, when we hit 50 reviews on Apple Podcasts, we're giving away a copy of Quacks of Quedlinburg. And when we hit 50 on Spotify, we're also giving away a copy. So if you're a listener on either of those platforms, all you got to do is hit that review button. It's super easy. It's just tapping a free button. And when we hit 50, we'll have a sick giveaway for you guys. So there's 2 giveaways. Once again, looking forward to it. So, Jason, you ready to talk about Kingdomino?
Yep. Let's do it.
So Kingdomino is a Spiels de Jars winner. I just butchered it. So that's, this is why Jason is the pro here.
Spiel de Jars.
Notice, Jason is a master at explaining games. And here we are. I just read the review from Triforce, and then I'm just going to butcher my way through it. So released in 2016, designed by Bruno Cathala, published by Blue Orange Games. It is a 2 to 4 player game and plays in 15 to 25 minutes. And I would say that is extremely accurate, especially if you know how to play. So in Kingdomino, you are a lord seeking new lands in which to expand your kingdom. You must explore all of the lands, including wheat fields, lakes, mountains, in order to spot the best plots while competing with other lords to acquire them first. It uses tiles with 2 sections, very similar to dominoes. And each turn, you're going to be selecting a tile to connect into your existing kingdom. You have to make sure that one of the sides connects to a matching piece. The other side can sort of be free in itself, but you can certainly optimize how you want to lay that grid out. The order of who picks first depends on which it was previously chosen. So if you draft a high point tile, most of the time, that means that you're probably going to be picking later in the drafting order, because each round has a draft to it to pick your piece. And the game ends when each player has completed a 5x5 grid or failed to complete it because you cannot fit any more tiles inside of the restriction of your kingdom. So points are counted based on the number of connecting tiles and valued crown symbols. Jason, tell us about the setup.
The setup is actually quite... Setup and teach are both quite light and easy, for sure. I mean, the really what takes the longest in the truest sense is shuffling the tiles, and you're really only shuffling these. It's not like shuffling cards, right? Shuffling tiles like this sometimes are easier. For those YouTube watchers, you can kind of see them holding the tiles up because you can just put them on the board, put them on the table and shuffle them around and stack them up, or however you want to do it. But that's really it. And then you lay out the number of tiles based on the number of players you have, and you go from there. Now, I will say this, and we didn't use it for yours, but they do have these little castle things that kind of don't stick together. They're more accoutrement than anything else. They don't serve a purpose because you have a home tile. And so Robbie didn't have his put together, and I asked him about it, but, it is what it is. But the setup, very easy. The teach, regarding the cognitive load, to steal what James told us about, the teach is easy because you're just taking a tile and playing a tile. Okay, so that's easy. Now it's a little bit more than that because there are some restrictions on that. The biggest restriction, the two restrictions you have are when you take a tile, it has to touch. So the tile I'm holding in my hand is the desert and the barren wasteland or something. It's the yellow and the brown. If I take that tile, this tile now has to be adjacent, orthogonally adjacent to either the yellow has to touch another yellow or the brown has to touch another brown, or they have to touch your home tile. Okay, a restriction. So not a hard restriction, but you do have to remember that. And if you haven't played games, it's hard to remember, I have to match this. Conversely, if you talking about other games, if you're used to having restrictions, when you have freedom like Sorcerer City, it may throw you off because you're not used to that. But the second thing is it has to be in a 5x5 grid. So with regards to teach, draft a tile, place a tile, but then your tiles themselves, you see, are technically 2 apart. So when you build your tableau, it can't be more than 5 squares wide or 5 squares high. Beyond that, there's no other real heaviness of the teach other than the basics of scoring, which we'll talk about a little bit when it comes to strategy. But the basics of the teach, not too hard.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I've got to figure out that either I've got to figure out or someone has to build something for games that makes shuffling tiles easier.
Yeah.
Because I feel like having just played Sorcerer City, playing Kingdomino, like 90% of the time when I do this, I basically just put the tiles in the lid and then like shake them around, spread them out on the table, and then just build the stacks randomly because you don't want them. There's a number on the back of each of them that determines like sort of the order of how you pick for the next round. We'll talk about that in a second, but that, like, truly, like Jason said, that is the hardest part of the teach. And most of the time the teach is so light that I can be doing the shuffling while I'm teaching the game. So that it's just ready to go by the time like a couple pieces fall out. Awesome. Here we go. This is what they look like. Here are the crowns, things like that. That 5x5 grid, I don't know if very often, I don't know that I've played a lot of other games. Jason, you played more than I have, where you're laying tiles and there are restrictions on the size of your tableau.
There are some, like there's a very light game called Nemalia that I haven't shown you yet, but has a similar restriction. You can only go so far wide or so far high. There's a couple of ones, but none that I remember or know of. They're like major games. Kingdomino being the biggest one that has that sort of restriction that I can think of.
Yeah, and if you play the 2-player variant, you actually end up building a 7x7 spread, but you're drafting 2 tiles each round.
Okay, yeah.
So you just end up with more tiles, which is why. And in the 3-player variant, 1 tile gets trashed every time. And one thing that I really appreciate about it, and I'll kind of throw this in with the theme because the theme is loose, to say the least.
Right.
Like, we could easily make this not like water, plains, wasteland, all that. It could just be colors,
Right.
and it would hit just as well. I feel like the pieces that Jason was talking about in the like home pieces, that probably makes it feel a little more kingdom oriented, because it's like a little castle that you have these meeples that look like kings that can fit inside. But most of the time it's like, honestly, I don't like them, because when you set them on your home base, I have a hard time seeing behind it. Like, if it's just like, it's a very flat board, and then all of a sudden I have this like castle sticking up out the middle of my stuff, and I end up just picking it up to be like, okay, that will connect over there. Cool. And then I put it back down, and after the second time of doing that, I toss it. I'm like, get that castle out of here. But I do like games that are tile oriented, that show you what number of pieces are available. So that is a fun thing. Like, in the rule book, it tells you there are 23 field squares. There are 35 water squares, whatever it may be. I think that's a really fun feature for the strategy side. So game length, Jason, we played it back to back. I would tell people, if you're going to play this game, be prepared to play it twice, because it plays so fast. Most people I've ever played with play it back to back. How did you feel game 1 to game 2 in terms of length?
Yeah, I think it's accurate. Now, my ego is going to come out, but I played a lot of games, and so literally you explain the game in less than 60 seconds. I'm like, okay, you do this, you have to touch sides. Okay, we're good. And that was it. And I was ready to go. So the game plays the same way. Like, okay, I'm going to try to go with green here. There's a crown. I'm going to try to do a crown. So to me, that gameplay, especially if you're a gamer and learn it, it's going to be a quickish game. If you're trying to min-max, okay, you may slow down a little bit, trying to push your luck on it. But I think the game length on the board is on the game box is accurate for sure. I mean, if you're socializing, if gamers are socializing while they play this, it may take 15 or 20 minutes. But if you're like head down playing it, it's like a boom, take that, okay, take that. It's all. I mean, you can literally play it the way people play Rook and Spades. Like, you could just, okay, I'm gonna take this, you go take that, I'm gonna take this, and put that there, and then score it. Or you could casually play like we did and kind of take it and talk about the weather, or talk about disc golf, or talk about the movie we just saw last night, and still take your time to do it. That's what's fun about this game, and that game length gives you that flexibility for it.
Yeah, I bet if this was on like BGA, because you know how we talked about like Seven Wonders, you can play Seven Wonders so fast because of the fact that the cards like shift through. I would bet if we played a real-time version of this on BGA, it takes us sub 10 minutes. Yeah. It might take us sub 6 minutes. Like, you're just click, drag, click, drag, click, drag. So fast.
Yeah. It is on BGA. Because really, like, if there's anything that would, I agree with that. Like, it'd be a super fast game. But if the thing that slow it down is the fact that, okay, I got to click to turn the tile, or I got to click to turn tile. As hard as that is, right? That's a way of saying that's how easy the game would be to play on BGA. Because, okay, I click this tile. Now I'm going to turn it here, put it here, turn it there, put it there. Whereas if it's in my hand, I can do that much quicker. I'm playing Planet Unknown right now on BGA, and I'm loving Planet Unknown on it. I'm getting smoked because I'm not paying attention to anybody else. I lose a lot of games on BGA because I literally don't pay attention to anybody else. I'm just doing my thing. Oh, lost to Castle Burgundy again. Oh, lost to Castle Burgundy again. So, lost to Castle Burgundy again. Because I'm taking tiles I want and not looking at what they're doing. I'm having fun, but my win percentage is slowly going down. Anyway, that's a separate story altogether. But I agree on, especially if you know Kingdomino thing. It's a nice thing because I don't know if it may go into strategy, but it's on the board, on the box. I think it says it's available for like 8 and up, but there's no doubt for me and my gaming family, my 5 or 6 year old could play this game, could play it. Same way we played Ticket to Ride when the kids were 5 and 6. They just played cards up because Ticket to Ride Junior wasn't a thing when they were young. They could play this game because you're taking a tile and placing the tile. Make sure the yellow touches yellow. Make sure green touches green. Make sure blue touches blue. Hey, make sure you get a crown. But I love the fact that its game length is short and the accessibility. And maybe that's another thing we add to our. I don't think we actually have accessibility or something like that when we talk about accessibility, right? In our sorry, we're a little peek behind the curtains. In our structure we have to talk about the games, I don't think it's in there. So, but maybe that becomes something. But the fact that it is a game that, even though it says 8+, if you know your kid younger than 8 could easily play this game and have fun with it and play it in 15 to 20 minutes and maybe play it twice in an hour or 3 times an hour and you get a few plays of it in.
Yeah. So my wife works at a library, and the like fiction section has board games that you can check out, but the children's department also has board games you can check out. And the children's department has a Ticket to Ride Junior, has a Catan Junior. But Kingdomino, actually where I played it the first time, was the children's department put on a game night. And so I came to help run games for that. And I ended up playing Kingdomino there because someone introduced me to it. And then I just sat at that table. 3 people would play a game with me, and then those 3 people would get up and leave. And then a new group of 3 would sit down and we'd play. And it was flying through it. So it's actually, even at their library, it's in the children's section. So I would completely agree that it is phenomenal for kids. Now, strategy wise, it's interesting in that there are clearly ways to win. Like I would say it's not a very well balanced game in terms of where the points are at. So like, cause the first time we played, Jason has mentioned this, whenever he plays games with new players, like when they're playing a game for the first time, it's like, let me try something else to see, does it work? Like, is that a possibility? And I tried a strategy with Kingdomino when we played I wanted to go deep in, I believe I went water, the first game that we played, just to see, like, because there's a bunch of water tiles. And I was like, if I create my own version of Kevin Costner's Water World, here we go. Like, I may be able to do it. I got smoked, like absolutely smoked. There are water, forest, and plains, and there's a lot of them. And the way that you get points is it's the number of squares for that terrain multiplied by the number of crowns that are also in that area. So I could have a section, a 5x5 grid is what, 25 tiles? It's 24 tiles because one of them is your wild. Right. So you have 24 possible tiles. I could have 16 of them be forest, but if I only have 1 crown, that's only 16 points.
Right.
But it obviously goes exponentially higher the more crowns you pack into an area. But some of the dark areas are loaded with crowns. So Jason, when you're diving into the game for the first time, you don't know either way. How did you feel about like adjusting to the strategy on the fly?
Yeah, it was easy to get lost because in my second game, I got more lost in getting a bunch of a color, hoping a crown was going to come out. And going back into what you referenced, how the rule book tells you exactly how many tiles are out there. So if you're like Ryder and counting them up and realizing, okay, we've had 5 crown ones come out, there's 1 more. Hopefully I can pick it right. The first one, I lucked into those because you were doing a different strategy and Elizabeth didn't stop me. I got those black ones that had the multiple crowns and I had like 3 tiles that were like, whatever. I had 3 or 4 tiles that were a ton of points. Like, because I won the first game because I had the black ones and then the brown wastelands, and I had a bunch of crowns in there with not a lot of tiles. Because if someone doesn't block you if they don't know to do that. And so I knew to go for that early, but in the second time, if someone's already taken those, because like you said, we even talked about it, now that you know those black ones with 3 crowns in it or whatever really good, now almost everybody's going to take those because it's almost a de facto, I have to take that because if I don't, I risk losing. But if I take it, now we're going to play push your luck on what ones come out next and see who kind of gets the luckiest with the tile draw from there. I got lost, which is easy to do. I got lost going deep in like forest or something like that and hoping a crown came out and one did, but it was like 1 crown, even though I had 8 tiles, 8 squares, yeah. It's 8 points. Well, you could have a couple of tiles and the other ones and already have 8 points pretty easily. But the push your luck nature of that is definitely fun. because the gameplay is so quick, whether you go for the terrain, whether you go big for a bunch of terrains, like you said, the water world, or whether you like just take that black one right away and hope you get another black one to add it up to make it a strong one, or the wasteland that has multiple crowns, you go from there for sure, or have the perfect one where you did, where I think maybe you had a bunch of forests, but then you also had 3 or 4 crowns in that massive thing as well. So you may not luck into the gameplay may come to you that you're able to take that if no one's really paying attention. I got another crown, and I got another crown, and this thing is now 8 tiles, but I have 3 crowns. There's 24 points, and the games are like 60 points. So you already got 30 your points with one thing. So go ahead.
And that's how the second game ended. The second game ended with Elizabeth had draft order on me, and I had built like a biome that essentially I knew, okay, this last set of 4 tiles, there's going to be a crown in here, and I need that crown. So do I basically tank the round before, because depending on, there's 4 tiles that get laid out, so the lower sometimes I say lower value, usually the ones that have crowns on them there's numbers on, literal printed numbers on the back of each tile. So you set them out face down, and then at the start of the round, you flip them over, and then based on which one you draft, they're all put down sequentially. So like Jason has 16 and 33 in his hand. If I took 33 and someone else takes 16, well, 33 has a crown on it in the water area, but 16 doesn't. It doesn't have a crown on it. So it's like, okay, I got my crown this time, but I've sacrificed choosing a better tile possibly. I'm up to the grace of others. And in the last round, I decided to be greedy and not go for draft order for the last round, knowing that one's going to be out there. And Elizabeth decided to go with a different one, which enabled me to get like 20 points on one tile. So it was like, okay, I kind of lucked into this one. And I think I like the idea of min-maxing to a degree, but it plays so fast that you don't get caught in the min-max to a degree, because you're like, if it goes poorly, I'm going to try this, I'm going to be lucky. But if we're playing a Grand Austria Hotel and I'm going to try a go lucky strategy, I'm going to feel really bad an hour and a half in that the risky strategy I tried didn't work. Like I'm just getting hit by a bus over and over and over again. Whereas this is a bus ride. Oh, this seat is uncomfortable. Awesome. I'll just change seats at the next stop. So yeah, very, very, I love the quick playness of it. I think it is probably the best feature of it is you get a strategic dip into the game, but you can blow through it so fast.
Yeah. It's hard for me to think of too many other, this is not a heavy game, but too many other that have enough mechanics in it that are in heavier games that plays this fast. I may have one on my shelf somewhere, but I can't think of one off the top of my head that is one that has a little push your luck, has drafting, has draft order, which are 2 different things. Drafting a tile is drafting a tile I want, but now strategically drafting a higher tile, so next time I can go first, or a lower tile. And then tableau building, right? Not a engine in the pure sense, but the tableau building nature of it. It has all these little tendrils of other things that are in other games that goes very quick. And what's funny, you're going to laugh what I'm about to say, and I didn't even realize this, even though it's in the name, until I wrote these show notes, I didn't even think about the fact that this is essentially, you're playing dominoes, but instead of being numbers, they're colors or tableaus. It's literally in the name, Robbie. It's Kingdomino. I didn't even think about it being dominoes, because, right, you play dominoes differently, but the principle of having, you turn it, you got the gist for those who play dominoes. And it's literally in the name. And until I did the show notes, I didn't think about the fact that it was a dominoes, because when it comes to a feature of the game, if you're used to dominoes, each side has 2 different numbers. Well, this is just 2 different colors, for lack of a better term, right? It's terrains thematically, but it's colors. And you're trying to match those up for your biggest, your big scoring potential. It's not necessarily a unique thing in gaming, but I like the fact that the push your luck element of the crowns. Like, cause I went big and you could go really big in something and never get a crown. There's not a ton of other games that have tableau building for that you're trying to complete that thing in that nature. Carcassonne, you're trying to complete a castle. So it's kind of there, but it's adjacent to it. And I'll say this one thing, then I'll flip back over to you. But one of the coolest things about this that I still love, and we've referenced it, but until you play it, it's not conceptually there. But the fact that all the tiles are numbered and that's how the tiles come out, it's just really cool. Like they're all like the number 19 is always the same 2 tiles or whatever. The number 16 is always this desert and wasteland, but it's going to come out at different times. And how that comes out for the draft order or the tiles in which you go from top to bottom, I think that's cool. That's not a thing that's in too many other games that I can even think of that I played, that not an arbitrary, but a thought out number on one side dictates the order in which those things come out. I just like that. I think it's a very cool thing. And then drafting is always a fun thing. This is very similar to, I don't know if we play Floriferous. I think we play Floriferous, where you're gathering the flowers. You're going left to right, right to left. It's adjacent to that. And I don't know if we've talked about it in the podcast, but at least it's a game we played lately. But basically, you're taking your worker and you're getting a flower. But you may draft a lower flower, which means the next turn you're going to draft lower. So that's essentially what Kingdomino is, except just new tiles come out. You don't know what's coming out. Whereas Floriferous, you see all the flowers that are in front of you. But I like the fact that the numbers on the back, and that kind of sets the table for what's going to happen next.
Yeah. And I think if you were someone who is a lifer and playing this, like I think of James mentioning that this is one they keep in the car for we got to the restaurant and we brought it and we're waiting on the waiter.
Right.
Easy play because it's very small. The box is small. You can play it in most environments. I think for me, where the itch that this game scratches the most is, as a Polyomino lover, I love fitting pieces together to build something fantastic. Like it's New York Zoo. Such a phenomenal game because there is just this Polyomino piece while also accomplishing other things inside of it. And Polyomino, for those not familiar with the term, is the idea it's like dominoes, but instead of just a two shape, there are other sides. Now, in the name, this is dominoes. So how does it scratch that Polyomino itch? It's that 5x5 grid that you have to stay inside of that is phenomenal, because it says there's optional bonuses, but house rule, whenever you play with Robbie Crawford, because it scratches my Polyomino thing, I always put the bonuses in play. And the bonuses are, if you get a completed 5x5 grid, then you get an extra 5 points. If your starting tile is in the center of your kingdom, then you get an extra 10 points. So that's massive, because I mean, if you win like a crazy winning score, you're in the 60s.
Right.
10 points is huge in that. And so you want to the first game we played, Jason was the only one who got both bonuses. And then Elizabeth didn't get either bonus. And the second game we played, everybody got both bonuses. So you're like, oh, well, then it doesn't really act like a bonus because it eliminates it. But it does, because you have to restrict what you want to do in order to fit it. And so there comes a point where it's like, I decided to try to maximize that wasteland space, and that threw off everything else about my kingdom. So now I'm almost playing from behind. I love that satisfaction of getting to the end of the game, because there are restrictions to, they have to play on matching sides and things like that. Like it is so satisfying getting to that, which to me plays into the replayability of it, which is so high because it plays so quick, and you can attack there are 6 areas. You could play 6 games in a row and be like, I'm water this time, I'm forest this time.
I agree. We've said it a lot. The replayability and the time frame of playing this game, especially if you know it, is such a big selling point for it, for sure. It's a game that, fully transparent, it's not a game I even debated about buying it or not, because we're in this world where I am showing a lot of new games to people and not going to play heavier games, which is okay. But to me, I say this a lot. If I had this 12 years ago and I have kids, we're going to play this a ton. other than it being a 4-player game and I have 5 in my family, right? We're going to play it a ton. Right now, it's not a game I'll ever pull out to play with Primi and Elizabeth. So, but
Totally.
carrying it around with you to play in a restaurant or something, different thing altogether. Sitting here at that table, I'm never going to pull this out. And unless someone listens to this podcast, like Dakota or Brad or somebody says they want to play it, I won't play it either. Not because it's a bad game, right? But because for me, it becomes it will become very samey, but I like heavy, big, thinky games. But having it in your quiver to quickly play for 10 minutes while you're sitting around doing nothing, that's not a bad idea. I have a few of those in Button Shy Games, a whole series of publisher that's 18 card games. I have a few of those. I've never played a single Button Shy game with Robbie, I don't think. So I've sold a lot, but I have 2 or 3 I've kept it's literally 18 cards, and the games can go 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Great. It's amazing what 18 cards, they figured out the math of 18 cards. That's just the way it is. Anyway. But it is what I will say about Kingdomino when I play it like we did, as soon as we're done, whether I won by a lot or lost by a lot, to your point, I want to play it again because I want to try something different. Or can I do the exact same thing and pull it off? Or can I go with Waterworld and pull it off? Or can I go with, Robin Hood Locksley in the forest instead and do another Kevin Costner thing there and see if I can pull it off in the forest as well, right? So when I play Kingdomino, because it plays so quick, it's not one I'm going to play once and be done. I'm like, I really want to even if I win by a lot, I'm like, okay, I want to play again, just see if I can do that again. So that level of replayability, super nice. I'll tell you this too, along the same lines, the replayability is helped by the fact that the quality of these tiles is amazing. You can't really see it on the camera, but these things are some chunky tiles, like some of the thickest, probably the thickest tiles I've ever felt in a tile laying game. It's crazy how, this is Robbie's game. I'm trying to slightly bend it, and you can't even really bend it. It's that stiff cardboard. Like, I could bend it if I really tried, but Carcassonne tiles are okay. I mean, they're good. My Cascadia tiles are just fine. That is some chunky tiles, which is great because you're going to handle them so much. You're going to get shuffled so much. The thickness of those tiles is great. And the artwork is clean and simple. Didn't go crazy. Didn't try to overdo it with any wildness. And it's differentiated enough that you can tell the difference. But I like the clean, simple look of it while still being kind of funsy as well. It's not quite kidsy, but kids will think it's cute. It's not so kidsy that adults think, well, this is a kid's game. It's not that at all.
Yeah, that is such a great description. I think if you looked at it, and a serious gamer would look at it and would not immediately say, oh, this is a children's game. But a child would still enjoy looking at the pieces. Like, one of the water pieces literally has like a dinosaur swimming in the water. So fun because it's a double water piece. That's fantastic. Like, one of the grass pieces has a dragon flying over the grass, like a shadow of the dragon. So there's just some really fun pieces worked into it. And you would think, like, for a game that's super light, hopefully it's affordable, which it is. It only comes in at $20 on Amazon right now. So, like, it really is I think if you're a gaming family, you're looking for some easy replayability. Like, I was just thinking about this. Like, when we were at the hospital today, I'm like, Lindsay and I are going to end up, we're probably not going to play a bunch of board games while, baby's arriving. But like, I can only imagine that there's some time where you're just sitting there between contractions, like chilling. This would be such an easy game to just pack in the hospital bag. Wouldn't take up a lot of space. Super simple. You don't need a ton of space to play it. It just does so much. And as I keep a copy of That's Not a Hat in my car at all times now. There's a very real world that Kingdomino just goes right next to it, so that I have a party game and something else. If I were to, I agree with Jason's critique in terms of like the sameness of it. And if it works for you, Jason, I'll go ahead and jump into cookie rating for my one critique.
Yep.
Because it kind of plays into it. Unless you got something else you want to say
No.
Cookies.
Nope, we're good.
So I'm gonna put it at a peanut butter, which is dead middle for us. And the reason I'm putting it as a peanut butter is because I see the complexity side of it. It's not the deepest game in the world, but I really enjoy the replayability. I could see the sameness of it, and it's very Seven Wonders. I struggle with Seven Wonders as a game sometimes because if someone knows about science in Seven Wonders, everyone has to play different around science, because if one person just gets all the science, the game's over. Nobody stands a chance. And once people know about the dark tiles, you have to adjust. Like, you cannot just let someone run away with the dark tiles. But your first game, if you're playing with non-gamers, I appreciate that aspect of it. I would say my biggest pushback that really holds it back truly comes down to when I play it. Yeah, I just feel like if I'm playing with other people, I'm not allowed to experiment very often, just because the strategies are not as well balanced. I very much look forward to having this game, raising gaming like a gaming family. Like Jason said, having it early is going to be super helpful. But I would definitely have this in your quiver. That's why it's got to be middle of the road for me, because it fits any quiver really well.
Yep.
But
yeah, I was surprised. I thought you would actually rate that a little higher. Not that Peanut Butter's a bad rating. We always foot stomp that. That doesn't mean it's a bad game, but it's the rating relative to us for sure. So, and the thing about Kingdomino, when I think about if I have it now versus if I had it when I had kids, right? So many of even though my kids are ultra competitive now, for many years at the early days of gaming, they gamed just to game. They literally played just for fun. And I push Elizabeth and Ryder for that. And right now they're hardcore. They play to win, which is okay, because that was me for a long time. Whereas a lot of times I play games for fun. I'm trying to win because it's fun to win, right? Where Ryder will tell you that he doesn't have fun unless he wins, but we know he has fun sometimes otherwise. But Kingdomino is one, especially you just play for the fun of it. Can I do this? Can I do this? I don't know what the final score is, but I want to see what I can do. Can I have this really big thing? Let's see what. And so that's what Kingdomino can definitely be for someone. It's that way for James. I mean, James, like you said, he's in his quiver. He has it. It's always going to be there for them. For me, maybe if I came to and had the history of it, it would be there. Maybe if I had it 2016, 2017 when it came out, it would be that. Here's an interesting thing. The designer of this, Bruno Cathala, also designed 5 Tribes. He also designed.
Really?
Yep. He co-designed Splendor Duel. Co-designed Seven Wonders Duel. Like, he has Bruno Cathala is one of the all-timers. Shadows over Kamala, an over game that people love. I've never played, a game called Raptor. So you're talking about a king of designing games, and sometimes simple games, right? 5 Tribes, as principle, is a pretty simple game. I'm going to move some meeples around and take an action. Lots of complexity to move the meeples around, but it's a single action. So Bruno Cathala, Kingdomino, it's an all-timer out there. It won the Spielist, right? We can't emphasize enough. Winning the Spielist is yours, means you're the best game in the world. Okay, some things have won the Spiel that maybe didn't deserve it. There's no doubt everyone will agree that Kingdomino deserves that because of everything it brings. But having said all that, and I've kind of alluded to it before, my rating would be a sugar for certain. Not an oatmeal raisin, because like I said, I have fun playing it, and I'm still 50-50 on whether I'm going to buy it just to have, but I have other games I can introduce folks to. It's a game that if anybody ever says, if I was someplace and somebody said, hey, you want to play Kingdomino, I'll happily play it. Get out and have it and have fun and play 2 or 3 times in a row. But as I said earlier in the episode, if I own this, or with Robbie's here with me right now with his game, unless someone asked to play this, I'm not going to bring it out to show it to them. Even though it's an easier level than Cascadia. Cascadia's a different game, but a tile laying game. I'm just going to show them Cascadia instead, because it's heavier cognitive load for sure. But I have more fun playing that game for that very reason, which is, right, Cascadia was our first episode, I think, or our second episode we talked about. Kingdomino is a sugar cookie. I love sugar cookies. They're fantastic. We'll always be happy to have one, but it's a game that won't necessarily make my collection, but could be perfect for your collection, especially for $20.
Yeah. And I will throw this in as sort of a last thought, and I meant to say this in my piece, but it escaped me. It's hard for an introductory game capping out at 4 is really tough because I think that's where a green team wins and a just one really shine for us and introducing people to games. And even I would not consider this a party game, but I think about like if we had this with us at the game night, this would have been really great for like, oh, some people want to play something a little beyond a green team wins or a just one or Super Mario Bros. Card game. We can go have them play this because it caps out at 4.
Yeah.
It's just, it really limits the amount of times you can actually get it to the table. But if you play a lot of couples game nights, this could be a phenomenal addition to your setup for like, hey, we're eating dinner. We can play Kingdomino to get loose. Or we just wrapped up Sorcerer City and we want to play one more game, but like it's really tough to decide. Bank. We can just throw Kingdomino on the table, and within 3 minutes, we're playing and we're going. Like, I mean, it just serves that spot really well.
It's the ultimate filler game, and we talked about it before. But filler games are those games that are exactly that. Get up and go on quick. Maybe take 10 or 15 minutes to play, then you're done. Beginning of the game night, middle of the game night, if you're just kind of teased out, or the end of the game night. Most games, when I have people over, we typically play a lighter game at first just to kind of get the juices going and then go heavier. But sometimes we'll go a little heavier because we know they want to play a heavy game in case it runs long and be like, hey, do you want to play another game? We did that with when Dakota and Mercer were here. We're like, hey, we want to play one more game. We'll do it for that. So yeah, it's not bad at all. I mean, I say this every time. I feel bad if I do a lower rating, but it doesn't mean the game is bad. It's just not one I would have for me. And I said this a lot because I'm a different phase of my life. 10 years ago, we're buying this easily. Being a 4-player game may have limited us because we, for a while, tried to not buy too many 4-player games because it was just tough being a family of 5. And so we bought a lot of 5-player games. Pretty much every 5-player game we could find, we would buy that was good. And so if Kingdomino went to 5, it would have been the perfect game for my family when they're 8, 9, 10, because it is a quick game and fun.
I think if I go back to episode 10 for us, which was 10 games when you're starting a board game collection, it doesn't make my top 10, but it's definitely in my top 15.
Yeah.
Like I see a world that I'm like, Kingdomino is like I said, Jason currently has my copy. I'll get it back at some point. It's never a game that I would ever be tempted to sell. Like I would just, because it takes up so little space, it's enjoyable to play, and it's tough to find a game that has a strategic itch that you come out the other side and you're like, yeah, I got to play that again immediately. Like, and
for sure, you
will never play this game once and be done.
I agree. And you know, if I'm being blatantly honest, which hopefully I always am, but if I'm being transparent and think deeper, I would choose to start a collection. I would choose this over Cascadia to be my tile laying game to start a collection. Definitely over Carcassonne, because we know Carcassonne, as fun as it is an OG. The Farmers throws everything off. We all agree. The Farmers messes with people and it can get people really frustrated. So I thought the Farmer would do better. It gets me frustrated on BGA when some guy sneaks in and gets a Farmer in there. But I'm looking at Cascadia over to my right. There's no doubt if we redid that list, Kingdomino, I'd probably put on there for my tile laying game to start a collection, because it is that great of a game. Even though it's not a game I would own because I already have Cascadia, but if I'm telling somebody to start a collection, especially for $20, can't beat it.
I am that person. I own Kingdomino, but I don't own Cascadia because it's and then if I'm going to take someone, now that I have Sorcerer City, it's like, oh, you really love tile laying.
Yeah,
we either jump to Carcassonne or we jump all the way to Sorcerer. So it's fun seeing that that track as you go through. So definitely check it out. And I would say if you got a library in your area that checks out games, they probably have a copy of Kingdomino. I can almost guarantee it because it won the Spiel. And if they don't, let your librarian know, because I would imagine that I'm looking over to my library consultant. But that's the beauty of your public service opportunities is they can't say yes to everything, but putting it on the list. And sometimes there's some extra money laying around and they can be like, oh, yeah, totally. So, Jason, any final thoughts as we wrap it up?
Yeah, I will say thank you to those who came and talked to me and Robbie at Worlds.
Yeah.
Most of our followers are probably disc golfers, but for those who aren't, Disc Golf World Championships happened here in Lynchburg a week and a half ago. That's why Robbie was in town. And we had a few people come talk to us specifically about Bards. And it's always a funny thing for them to, because they know Robbie because he's Robbie C Disc Golf, for those who know Robbie, and Robbie's attached to Foundation. They know me because I'm under Foundation, and some people see me in random videos here and there. But when they come and talk about Bards, it's always like, oh, wow, that's a little bit of a surprise. And I even had one of who's a Foundation guy, but he follows Bards. Nick gifted me some coasters, high quality coasters. You can see Ticket to Ride, you can see Quacks, Dune Imperium, and my drink is on my Seven Wonders one. Nick, thank you. Like, these are probably one of the 2 best gifts I've ever got. I got a really cool mug at Foundation somebody gave me with a beard on it, but this is probably my favorite because it's practical and it's cool and it's really high quality. So, but it was a pleasure meeting people who would come talk about board games with us for certain. So being known for Bards is a blessing. I live a blessed life. Let's be clear. I don't take that for granted at all. I am very blessed. And so getting to do this is fun, and having people come talk to us, random folks who we've never met, come talk to us at a disc golf tournament about board games was fantastic. And thank you to everyone who did that.
Yeah. Once again, Jason and I, we talk almost daily. So we're gonna have these board game conversations. I mean, I literally was texting Jason about Sorcerer City while it was happening, kind of a deal. And so it is an honor to be able to sit down and record these episodes for y'all. And you listening affords us really cool opportunities to sit down with Jamie Stegmeyer and James and like people that are designing these games that have like literally had an impact on people's lives. Yep. And we get the chance to talk to them because you guys are willing to listen to 2 random guys just talk about board games. So thank you for your support. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks for episode 28.
See y'all.